Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Berger.
Okay, so this one is work in progress, but it is also very slightly autobiographical, and it has something to do with honeymoons. So I call this the honeymoon roll. And we're going to start off with Bob and Carol, but not Ted and Alice. And they got married somewhere in the Midwest. I don't care where. So for a wedding present, his father gave him a trip to Florida, and specifically to Dunedin. So they were in Dunedin in a very nice hotel. I'm not sure which one it is because it's Dunedin. And while they were there, they heard there's a beach there called Honeymoon Island. So they said, well, we're on our honeymoon, we better go. So they packed up a picnic basket one day, and as a wedding present, Bob's father gave him his precious Nikon F4 35mm camera from the 60s. Now, the F4 is a classic, but it did use film. It didn't have that weird digital stuff. And Bob was a young person and had no idea what film was. So he took the camera and they went to the beach, and they had a nice day near the dog beach, which is close to the regular beach. And then they heard there was a nature trail. So they decided to go on the nature trail. So he took out the camera and said, oh, this might be good. There's a nature trail. I hear there's a nesting pair of eagles way out on the end. So I'm going to take pictures of the eagles. So he took out a roll of 35mm film in one of those canisters, and he couldn't figure out what slot it went in. But eventually he found it, and you put it in the slot, and you bring the film over, and you put it on the take-up reel, and you close the door, and you cock it a couple of times, but you don't know what you're going to get for a while until you bring it to CVS and they develop it. So they went out on the nature trail, and about a quarter of the way through, they saw a path off to the right. You go around the nature trail counterclockwise. So a path to the right, so they decided to take it, and they find a path that breaks up into little things, and they find a bunch of fiddler crabs that have dug holes in there, and they follow the fiddler crabs, and they come to a little secluded clearing in the mangroves, because there are tons of mangroves. And this is, of course, on the east side, which is in I forgot the saint's name. St. John's Pass, or whatever. No, it's not St. John's. Anyway, so they find this nice little secluded place, and they decide it's a great place to picnic. So they put their basket out, they put their blanket down, and they have some wine, and they have lots of wine, and lots of wine. And he says, you know, let's take some pictures. So his wife says, okay, we're here, it's secluded, let's take some pictures. So she took off her sweatshirt, t-shirt, and had on a nice bikini that wasn't, a really tasteless bikini. It wasn't, what's the word I'm thinking for? Tooth floss. It wasn't floss. And it wasn't a G-string, but it was a bikini, and she starts posing, and he says, come on, let's do some Sports Illustrated swimsuit poses. So she gets a little nervous, but it's really isolated. There's nobody around. You can't see anything, but there's a nice view. So she starts posing a little bit of Sports Illustrated photos, like a Sports Illustrated model. And after a while, she gets a little into it and decides to be a little risque. So she unhooks the bottom strap of her bra and takes a few pictures, with just hanging down. And then he says, how about we do something like topless? She says, well, okay, there's nobody here. So she takes her bra off completely and does a couple of these pictures. And, he's having a good time. He's directing her. He says, okay, turn a little bit to the right. No, the sunlight's bad. Go this way. So he keeps on going, and finally she says, oh, what the heck, let's do the full Monty. And this is every boy's dream, of course, to have a naked, full frontal woman on the beach, although they were newlyweds, and taking pictures of her. You know, this is the ultimate photographer's dream. So he gets a few of those and realizes it's 36 exposures and he's done with the film. All right, so he puts the camera down and they talk and drink a little more wine, and it starts to rain. It starts to pour. It's raining cats and dogs. So they quickly pack up everything in the basket and the blanket, almost everything, and they run and they're soaking wet, but they eventually get to their car and they drive to Dunedin and have a meal somewhere. There is a famous drag show in Dunedin. It used to be. It got closed down. Next to Kelly's, just about anything. Yeah. But maybe they went to the drag show. I don't know. No. Let's put the drag show in.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. So they go in, have a nice time, wonderful time in Dunedin. They go back to the Midwest, and he realizes the camera's missing. So, oh well, you know, it's a camera. It's my father's, but I don't have it. So about a month later, a strange package comes from, not Amazon, this is from FedEx, and it has a Dunedin return address. He says, what the heck, I didn't order anything in Dunedin. So he opens it up, and there's his Nikon F4, 35mm camera. And there's a note from the park ranger and said, we found this after the rainstorm in that little cove there, and we decided it was important. We looked up the serial number. We found your father's name, who had registered it in the 60s, and we asked him, and we got your address. So we thought we'd return it to you. And we felt so guilty that Dunedin had disappointed you that we decided to develop the film for you, and here it is. So he thinks, great, now the guys at CVS had looked at the film of my wife posing nude on Honeymoon Island. They've made copies of it. They've scanned it. It's on the internet. This is scary. This is really scary. So he gets brave, opens the CVS package, takes out the negatives, and he doesn't know what a negative is. Okay, it's a negative. And then he sees there's a note in there from the film developers and said, we're sorry to tell you, but apparently you didn't load